we have the different types of mock-ups. So like last class we talked about like how they're color changing. We went through showing you when you had, our preset mock-ups, like something like this. So I'm just gonna select the design so it'll place the shirt. But when we have a shirt like this, how we make it a color changing. So that way when we switch the color, then we talked about the contrast. So when we switch it to black like this, if we right click the white, it'll help show the detail in the shirt and everything like that. So we'll go through the difference of creating color changing items like this, or if they have to remain just the standard color that you kind of brought in. All right, so let's go ahead and let's start with just a basic t-shirt. So do you guys currently, when you bring in designs or bring in new apparel, or apparel that you want to add, or any type of product, are you going to an actual site like Alpha Broder or Sanmar, any of those places? Or are you mostly pulling from Google? All right, so a lot of Sanmar, Bella, Google. Okay, so a little bit of everything. So um, pull from their website, so it's a real shirt. Awesome. Okay, so yeah, anything like that will work with these mock-ups. So you can, if it's something that you can't find on a particular site, Google's probably the best way to, just kind of search that specific shirt, especially if you have the name of the shirt. You can usually just, bring that in or type that in and it'll find something pretty similar. If you're purchasing any like apparel or items from any of those sites that we kind of mentioned, like Alpha Broder, Sanmar, SNS, so any of those places that sell blanks, their website, when you get onto it, you can actually download their like more high resolution, cleaner images. So that's always one way to do it. It usually works out really well because the images are so clean. But you'll have to create an account, I'm pretty sure, to be able to get to the downloaded images. I'm not 100% on that. You can probably still snip it, but I think to download the images, you have to, register for your account and everything like that. But I think all they need for that is your like business ID. So it's nothing like, it's not hard to sign up or anything like that. But yeah, those are definitely some places you'll get it. If not, you can always search Google. So up top, I can just type Gildan. I'm just going to do a Gildan blank t-shirt. And then I'll just go ahead and hit enter. And then usually from this point, I'll just go to images. And here's all, my Gildan blank. So if there's a certain again, brand or style you want, you can type that in. So you'll see like t-shirt 500. That might be like the Gildan 500, or maybe that's our 5000. But they all have like specific names for them. So you can kind of pull those in with that exact name, or just search the name brand. And I usually will throw like blank at the end of it. That way, you make sure there's nothing already on it. So the first type of, and actually let's go ahead. Now the big thing when we're bringing in an item like this to add to our mock-up category, our catalog, we want to make sure either we want to have the intentions of making it a color changing t-shirt, so that way, when we bring it in, it can be just like we did with this example right here. We can make it black, green, red, gold, whatever color scheme we want, and it's still going to look good. Now, some items, some of the t-shirts and stuff like that, they might not come in every color. So, you want to make sure if you are showing someone a specific shirt that it has that color that you're looking for, and it matches pretty well. So you don't want to just take, a shirt, maybe let's pretend this is, this, or just a women's burnout t-shirt here, they might not have this light blue color. So we don't want to show them examples of this because obviously they won't be able to purchase it or use something like that. So if you are pulling in a t-shirt to make it color changing, just be aware of the other, the colors that they actually offer, so you don't show your customer, something that looks really nice, but then they don't have that color available. So let's go ahead, we'll go back to Google real quick, and so I just, again, search Gildan. Now I have the intentions of making this a color changing t-shirt. So the big rule when we want to make anything a color changing like item or apparel with the mock-up creator, we have to start with a white garment, any type of, white t-shirt, white bag, white hat, anything like that, and that will allow us to make it a color changing t-shirt. So obviously right here we have pretty much the same t-shirt. If I select this blue one, the only color that this is going to look good in is the blue that you see it in now. So I can't change it to this yellow here or this gray. It's not going to have the same effect. So we want to make sure, and just to make it, more of a specific search, we're going to say Gildan white blank t-shirts. So here's some different styles here, and we'll just select this image right here. All right, so I'm going to see if this loads at all, if it's just taking a second, but that's kind of coming in a little, it's not the best image. So if that's the case, we might want to try to search something else. So this is more like a kid's Gildan, so we could use that. That's the one that didn't come in that well. This one's not too bad here. And here's some like related ones. So this one looks pretty good, this style here. This is the round neck. So let's just, we'll bring in this t-shirt style here. Let's see how this one, actually this one looks pretty good here. This one has some actual details in some of the pockets and stuff like this on the sides. It has this little kind of more shadows in the pit. So this one has a little more detail to it. So I'm going to select this one instead. And then we had a question, filter on file size. So that's not going to really matter too much. What you're going to do, so when we're taking from Google like this, pretty much I'm just going to right click and copy image. All right. Now I'm just going to go into CorelDRAW, right click, paste. All right. So that's just going to drop my t-shirt in here just like that. All right. So that's why it doesn't really matter. Now so I guess actually the file size when you download from the websites, they actually do have different file sizes, don't they? If they have different file sizes, it shouldn't really matter. You can bring in a smaller one if it's easier to load. But anything from Google, you're just going to right click, copy, and then paste inside here. Now, have you guys ever done that before? And it shows just like a black box instead of the actual image here. So sometimes like maybe you try to grab a t-shirt and I don't know if it'll work on this one or not, but when you paste in here, instead of actually having the image, it looks more just something like that. Does everyone, if this happens, do we know how we can still grab that image? So the bitmap trace, no, that's going to be more of, so it's not going to be a CorelDRAW tool because it's more of like a protective layer that whoever set their website up didn't want you to copy and paste it pretty much. So with most of your computers, if you're working on a Windows, if you type snipping or start to type snipping, you'll see this tool or app called the snipping tool. I'm going to go ahead and hit open. So the snipping tool, what that does, it'll just, pretty much whatever's on your screen, you can grab a snippet of it. So if you right click, anytime you right click image like this and it doesn't paste it the way you want to, or the actual image, or it comes up as just a black box, we're going to hit new, and you're just going to pretty much just draw a box around your shirt just like that. Then you can hit copy from here and then paste it into Google. So that's kind of like a shortcut, you know, if anything ever, you know, like an image has a protective layer or anything on it, when you try to bring it in, the snipping tool can kind of get around that for us. And you can actually, you can right click and just hit copy, and then I could paste this right into Corel. If you wanted to save this for some reason too, you can just go to File, Save As, and then you can just save that image any way you want. So again, here we started with our blank white gilded. And again, I chose this one just because it looked more like a natural t-shirt, how it had the different shadow effects in the armpits down here at the bottom. So that's why I chose the image here. Now up top, you can see the size is like 16 by 18. Whenever we bring it in, and this is my kind of what you're talking about, the file size, you don't have to right off the bat, but it might ask to shrink the image anyways. So I get in the habit of kind of just making that a little bit smaller just to fit in my workspace. So now it's kind of, you know, almost 8 inches wide by 9 inches tall, rather than like 16 by 18. All right, so it doesn't, you know, you don't have to do it right away, but usually it'll ask you to reduce the size anyways. So I kind of just do it right at the beginning. All right, so next we're going to go into the Mockup Creator tab. All right, so up top here you'll see the Auto Boundary Tracer, and then next to it we have the Manual Boundary Tracer. So what we were hoping for is that most of the mockups that we try to add to the software, that we can create, that we can pretty much use this Auto Boundary Tracer. And so pretty much what that's doing for us is to get this image out of, so if I kind of put this black box around it, you can see how it has this white box around our design here. So what we were like, our next step is kind of removing our t-shirt away from that white, you know, having it away from the white box behind it. We don't want any of this showing up when we create our mockups. All right, so when we do that, we have two options. We have the create auto boundary and and pretty much the manual tracer, which would probably be a B-spline or, you know, any of your tracing tools over here. Most of us probably are, you know, using the B-spline or the 3-point curve. But our intentions are to hopefully hit this create auto boundary button. And that's going to see the outside of our t-shirt just like that. So that came in really nice with this t-shirt. And it's going to trace the outside of it. So it just B-spline pretty much the outside of our t-shirt, and then we're left with this just trace that sits on top of it. All right, now if I zoom in, and you can see right here we have this setting called the inside contour, and it's set to 0.02. You really shouldn't be adjusting any of these settings that much. They're pretty much what they're set at is, you know, you can maybe move it in 0.0 or 0.03 or 4, but what that's doing for us here is if I zoom into this product image or this, you know, this mock-up that we have, around the edges, it gets really pixelated. So we automatically set the inside contour to 0.02. So instead of setting the line outside where you get this darker gray with a lot of pixelation, it moves it 0.02 inside to try to cut off a lot of that for us automatically. So again, you really shouldn't be adjusting this too much, maybe 0.03 or 0.04, but otherwise it can pretty much remain as is. We had a question. Do you have to create the black box around the white one? No, that was just to show you that that white box is there. And we want to eliminate the white around it and just be left with the t-shirt. So I was just I just put that black box there just so you can see that there's actually, a white box around this too. So anytime, and I'll get rid of that, just, we don't need it. So when we use the create auto boundary, this is kind of exactly what we're looking for. It goes around the outside, it finds the shirt really nicely, or the, any product that we want, it traces it for us so we don't have to manually do it. If for some reason we trace this design and it might trace some of it really well, but then it had some problem areas, and you'll see like it maybe do something like this. Maybe it won't have as many like curve or like cross lines, intersecting lines here, but it might not capture the entire t-shirt. If something like that happens, or here where it had these traces at the bottom, or these little like shadows at the bottom, sometimes instead of following the outside of the t-shirt, it might get really skewed in here and start pulling in, parts like this. So any of those manual traces that might not look, or the auto traces that might not look good, that's when we would actually have to manually trace it instead. Okay. So the manual boundary tracer, right up top here, we actually just have like a shortcut for the B-spline tool. So you can grab it here. We also have all the other kind of tracing tools you might use. Again, most of us are probably using the B-spline, that's at top, or you can just come over here and all those options are still right here too. It's just a little shortcut area. So if that's the case, you would have to grab your B-spline, and let me go ahead first and get rid of that trace there. So if the auto trace didn't work well for us, that's when we'd have to grab the B-spline and we'd have to manually trace our entire garment or t-shirt. Now usually we actually want to get a little bit closer, because remember, we kind of want to cut off that same area that the auto boundary did. We don't need the outside of it, because remember, it's really pixelated. So we would have to manually B-spline this whole t-shirt. And then we have this create inside contour. So you kind of have two choices. You can go around the outside, and then once you're done, you just hit create inside contour and it brings it in just a little bit. Or if you want to spend the time, you can kind of do that manually from the beginning and just come in just a little bit like that, and it'll save you that step. But either way, that's our method of tracing. When we select our image here, create auto boundary, if this doesn't work well for us, we just delete the auto boundary, and then we use any of the manual tracing tools to put an outline around our t-shirt. Okay. Now sometimes, I didn't really zoom into this area, but sometimes you might get like just a little piece, like 90% or 95% of this design, our trace is really nice, but then we get to this little corner and it kind of missed an area. It's really jagged in there. At this point, we can kind of just edit the nodes. So I can highlight this section, clear that out, and I can adjust the nodes just like that to kind of fix that area. We had a question, what about the neck area after the auto boundary? So right now, this is we want this to trace just like it did here. So our entire, like our neck area here, we don't need to trace this out or anything. We want it to pretty much trace just like it did at this point. Now, if you wanted to, you could trace out the neck area, but most of the mock-ups that we have or use have the back side of it. But at this point, and I'll show you a way we can still trim that out, but not yet. So I'll show you, and we can kind of make the decision if we want to keep it that way or not. All right, so if we look up top here again, we have the auto boundary tracer manual. So we either click the left side or right side. So you only have to click, you're only using one of these, and you're only using the inside contour if you went around the outside, and this will just automatically bring it in a little. So once we, create the auto boundary, it looks good like this. We fixed, any problem areas like we did here. The next step would be figuring out if we want to make this a color changing mock-up or pretty much a mock-up of what you see is what you get. So again, if it's going to be a color changing mock-up, it has to start as a white product. So in this case, that's why I made, I selected the white Gildan t-shirt so we could kind of go through this. So if I had the same t-shirt but in blue, that right away is going to eliminate this option for me, and I'm going to select the cutout image mockup option instead. All right. But in this case, it is white. We want to make it a color changing mockup. So I'm going to select my design, or I'm going to select my trace, and I'm going to select my original image. All right. So it's important when we select this. Remember how we have that white box around our design? When I put the black one around it, you can see it. So that's where our image extends to. So if I just select this top part here, this is only selecting the trace. We need to make sure we select everything. So when I move this, the t-shirt moves with it. So you can kind of just to make sure, because even if you come in like this, see how it only grabbed the top trace? It didn't grab the actual image behind it. So when we select our next step, if we don't have both of them selected, so when I move one, the other one moves at this point, then it's not going to work correctly. All right, so that's one of the errors we'll see when we create the mock-ups, is we're only grabbing the top trace part. So, and if the wireframe can help in this at this point, because it's going to actually show you the box around the outside, so you can just make sure when you're selecting it, you go outside both of those. And then you can go right back to the enhanced view. All right. You'll see me like kind of move it, and I just hit undo and it moves it right back. All right, so our next step, again, we want to make it a color changing mockup. That's okay because we have the white Gildan t-shirt. So I'm just going to select that button there. All right, so you can almost think of this top area as like you're going to do one or the other. So you're either going to use the auto boundary or the manual boundary. You're either going to use the color change or the cutout image. So you're not going to hit both of these buttons. You're not going to do an auto trace and a manual trace. You're either going to do one or the other. All right, so at this point, now this is just, and you'll see how I move it around, it just has the t-shirt kind of shadow. If I put a background on this now, see how there's not a white box going around the outside of it anymore? So what that did for us is it cut out where we had that line, it trimmed, and now we are just left with our t-shirt. And at this point, because we selected color change mockup, we should be able to select the t-shirt and make it any color we want. So same thing, because I made this, because of the shadow effect, if I go to, let's remove this background, or I'll just make it a different color. If I go to a black t-shirt, see how we lose the detail? So that's when I want to come back and right click like gray or white to help show those shadow effects. And this is where I was saying the color changing doesn't always look the best with some items. So this black Gildan t-shirt doesn't really look necessarily like their black Gildan. Maybe this style right here looks a little bit better. So I went to like a darker gray, but the white almost makes it look, too white in those areas. So a darker gray definitely makes this look a little bit better. But if we go to white now, that's when we want to right click the black, and that will show our shadow effects a little bit better with our t-shirt here. So we had a couple questions. How do you add the colors available for that t-shirt? That's going to be kind of on you to know what's available. So that's why, although like the color change mockup is a really cool feature, sometimes I just prefer to, spend a little bit more time and bring in, maybe some more colors so it looks even better. Most of the items like this, you can probably, you don't have to have every color, but if you have a catalog, you can definitely, if your customer's looking at a catalog of the different t-shirts, or you have some in stock, you can kind of pull up the site real quick and see what's available and let them know. Or give them different options, and then if they want a gray version of this shirt, I can actually go to the gray version, download that one, and make another mock-up of it. So that's kind of, it's not to add like each color, or what you can do is, someone suggested, which is a pretty good idea too, is use the dropper here, and if you bring in the color, if you bring in the different t-shirts or go to their website, you can select this color dropper here, select it, and it will show up on your palette here. So if I select this orange here, you'll see how it adds the color here, and then you can change it to that color just like that. So that's one way of doing it. But if I think the mock-ups look a little bit better if you use their exact color, like from their website and stuff like that. It might take like an extra second or a couple minutes, but it ends up looking a lot better. And one thing too, this is where we got to the point too where, and this is, you can see here, even the tag itself is turned orange, where that would be white. And we actually have a little trick that we can do to fix that. But we had the question earlier about taking kind of this neck area away. If you don't like that look here, you can just kind of select the B-spline tool. And again, it's still right here on the manual boundary tracer. And you're pretty much just going to have to B-spline the inside. Just something like that, and finish off the circle. And once you do that, you can hold shift and select the shirt. So now I have those two items selected, and we just do a back minus front, and it'll trim it out just like that. So now you can kind of see here that that area is gone now. So if you like that style better, you can, but if not, you can just kind of leave it like that instead. But if you want to trim it out, you have the option here. So when you're doing a B-spline, what are you pushing to set the nodes along your path? So when you're B-splining like an object like that, you're just kind of zooming in and you're manually setting those. So there's no like path that's there. I'm just left clicking. So I'm just kind of going around the outside of my, or I'm just kind of following the line here. And every time I'm just doing a left click. And that's just, so it's just me kind of tracing that area. Yeah, so every dot you see is a left click. And then it'd be selecting the t-shirt and the B-spline, and then a back minus front, and that would trim out the neckline. It's still entitled. Do we have to save this somewhere special? Yeah, so we haven't got to the saving part yet. How do you put a background color behind the t-shirt? That's just this box right here, this black box at the top right. You can just select your image and put a background color on it just like that. So we're not gonna save it with this background color. This was just to kind of show you the color changing effects. All right, so now we're going to get into adding this t-shirt to our mock-up area. All right, so you're not actually, at this point, you're not actually going to go up top and go to File, Save As. We're going to save everything using, the design wizard inside the mock-up creator. So you don't even have to worry about, even it might not even change Untitled 2 right here. I can't remember if it does. But you're going to use this area down here to actually save your mockup. All right, so again, we got through this area here, so we click cut out color change mockup. That means since we click this one, we don't have to select this area or this button here. We're just going to drop down to add products. All right, so we have front selected. The next area that we have to fill in is the design width. All right, so this is kind of what we talked about when we were making our mock-ups. Remember when I had like a 4-inch design compared to a 10-inch design, and the 4-inch design looked really small on our t-shirt, but the 10-inch design fit really nicely on it? That's like the area that we're setting up with our design width here. All right, so if this, this pretty much is probably like a Gildan's Men or, adult t-shirt. It might even be one of their unisex t-shirts, but it's an adult t-shirt. So with this like width of the t-shirt, we'll probably want our design anywhere from 8.5 to 10 inches wide. All right, so in this design width, you can kind of pretty much go to, I'd probably go closer to the max, so like 9.5, 10 inches. So in design width, I'm going to hit 10, and I'm going to hit Create Design Placement. All right, so it's going to just pop up this red box right here. All right, so this red box represents 10 inches on our t-shirt here. All right, so when I select and move this red box, or just have it selected in general, you see up top here where it says it's 3.5 by 3 inches wide. That has nothing to do with the fact that we just put our design width is 10 inches. So even though this red box says 3.5 by 3 inches right here, this still represents 10 inches when it comes to our design placement and our like how big our design that's going to go on this t-shirt here. Right. So even if I make this red box this small, this box, even though it's less than 1 inch by inch, it still represents 10 inches. Right. So you can kind of resize this, move it around a little bit, but what we really want to do is place it in the middle of our t-shirt, or where we want that design to be placed on our t-shirt here. All right, so again, don't worry about, once you create the design placement, how big this box actually is up top here. it goes by the width. So you can adjust the height if you want, if you need to make it like, adjust it like that or anything, but it's still going to represent 10 inches wide. So once we've kind of placed our red box, so let's say, I was doing a design and they had a more of like a pocket logo. Well, if that was the case, I could put, instead of design with 10, I could put like design with 3, and then I would make my box just kind of be placed in this area where I want all that, the design logo to be placed. So you can move it, you can make it smaller, but in this case, it's 10 inches and we want it in the middle of our t-shirt. So we're pretty much going to size it just like this. Yeah, exactly. So we had a question: can we make multiple mock-ups from the same trace? Definitely, definitely. So, like with this one, you could do a Gildan, main. You could do a Gildan pocket. You could do, anything you want. Some of them even have side views on them where you could do like a sleeve, stuff like that. So that would be a different trace, but yeah, so stuff like this, you can place it, maybe for some reason they wanted the logo towards the bottom of the t-shirt like that. You can put the design placement wherever you want. And also too, if you've already traced a design, you don't have to, and you don't add it right away. So like, let's say, okay, I've already made this Gildan t-shirt before with the center image, but now they want that same t-shirt with the pocket. You don't have to go back and retrace it. Pretty much like I did here with the mock-ups when I just selected was it this one here? When I just selected a basic shape like here. Once you add any mock-up to your catalog, you can just throw a design on it real quick, and then this is pretty much at the same point where we are now with our design here, except without the box or the placement on it. All right, so you should never have to, as long as it's a good trace, you should never have to trace more than once. Unless it's different color scheme, or something's different about the image, like a side view, back of the t-shirt, you shouldn't have to trace it again. All right, so we have front design width 10 inches. We've already hit the create design placement, and that gave us our red box, and then we just sized it to the middle of our t-shirt. All right, so next we have front or back, and this is just to tell if it's the front of the shirt or the back. Most of the time you're pretty much just going to have the front of the t-shirt, but we're going to have the folder and the name. So the Bella canvas, all those have been added. We had some downloads that added them into your design wizard, but if you don't have those, you'll probably see boys, girls, men's, TRW, and women's. All right, so if any of these t-shirts you want to add to an existing category or drop down or folder, you can just select that folder, and then you can change the name to Gildan, let's say color changing, and you can do it short for CC, color changing, Gildan basic tee. Or underneath you have add new folder or edit delete folder. So if you want to add a folder, you would just select this button here. It's going to ask to enter a new folder name. So if I just wanted to add to my catalog, but I wanted to keep Gildan separated from everything else, I could call this the Gildan folder, hit OK, and then I would do men's CC basic t-shirt. Something like that. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and just add a new folder. So once I have all that information inputted or just written out in these areas, now I'm going to highlight. Again, I want to select my entire t-shirt and the red box. And I'm going to hit Save Custom Product. So once I click that, it's going to kind of blink for a second, and then it's going to pop up and say, product has been saved, Gildan Men's CC Basic T-shirt Front CDR. Yeah, so at this point, you can't just hit Save Custom Product. You have to make sure everything's selected. So again, if it's easy just to kind of, once you select everything, if you highlight over it, you see how I have those 4 arrows? You should be able to just move it around. If it moves everything, you know you have everything selected. If not, you need to kind of just hit undo and grab everything. So now that it's been added, now we can go to our mockups. In our drop down here, you'll see the category Gildan now. All right, so let's go here. We have our shape that we just had, Gildan, and then I drop this down and I'll say Men's CC Basic T-shirt Front. Now this design is, let's just type something out. So this design here, we got it set to 9.5 inches, so pretty close to the width of our t-shirt. So it's a little bit hard to tell just because it's a white t-shirt on a white background, but it does give us a little proof of our design here. So baseball, select the proof here, and you'll see how it shows up perfectly on our t-shirt. And then again, I can make that, any color I want. And you can still edit the design at this point, but it should sit in there perfectly just like that. Now, if I made the word baseball, right now it's 9.4. And remember, when we made up our mock-up creator, we said it was 10 inches wide. So that's why in the mock-up, it looks, really nicely in there. It's not too big, not too small. It sits perfectly, right on our t-shirt. If I select my baseball design now, and I move it to 3 inches wide, go to my mock-up, same t-shirt, now it's going to look super small on it because the original design was only 3 inches, and we told it we want it more close to like 9 inches on a t-shirt like this. Now this is one thing too though, with like a mock-up like this, how we were just talking about, oh, you can save like a pocket design and everything like that. You can always just, if you can move your design wherever you want it. So I can highlight the word baseball. I can move it at this point to the pocket area. So you can add one that says like pocket, front center or anything like that. But if it's a vector, any design you can just, and you want to make sure you're grabbing it from starting your box outside the shirt. If you try to click the shirt and drag it, or drag a box, it's going to move your shirt. But if you just highlight kind of to the outside of it and then grab the word, you can resize this however you want. And that's the same thing. If your design is too big for your t-shirt and it's a vector design, and you accidentally just didn't realize when you created the mock-up that it was, let's say it's like 20 inches wide and you just didn't realize it, you can always just highlight the design and resize it just to kind of create your own mock-up. So yeah, pretty much at this point you have control over it. Again, you can just move it in bring it there, and then you have your pocket t-shirt, or you wanted it just in the center like that. So there's times that you might, still make your t-shirt bigger to fit your design. You might move it, maybe up or down this way to make the design fit a little bit better in it. But that's how we're going to set it when we, create the mock-up creator using the design with and everything like that. Yeah, so we have a question. Can you repeat how to select the design but not the shirt? Yeah, so if you try to click on the t-shirt, if you try to draw a box around the word baseball, if you try to start that box or on the t-shirt itself, it's going to grab the t-shirt and move it like that. So when you want to select the word baseball, I'm actually clicking outside the t-shirt and then making my box go across it like that. So, or down here or across this way. But either way, any direction, I'm starting outside the t-shirt. Now I don't want to go all the way like this because that selects everything. So in CorelDRAW, remember, this gets where it's a little bit different than some of the other programs. When we select or highlight everything, or once we kind of like with the silhouette, if I'm drawing a box and I just touch the t-shirt selected. In Corel, you have to select the entire image. So if your design, let's say it's like, in this area here, as long as I start at the bottom of my t-shirt and go up top this way, because I didn't select the entire t-shirt, it won't ever select the t-shirt. It'll just select everything that's on top of it, which in this case would just be the word baseball. So any questions on our first design? So what if you know the design? What do you mean by what if you know the design with? Like with the mask. So yeah, so if it's a object like that, you would place in the design with, let's say, um, yeah, so exactly in this area here, if you had a mask, that design width might only be 3 to 3.5 inches. And to figure that out, pretty much once you purchase, if you purchase the design or purchase the mask and you have it, you can kind of measure it and see where your design width would be. But if otherwise you might just have to go from the specs off like the website and kind of just maybe say, okay, it says the width of the mask itself is 4 inches. I'm going to make my design width anywhere from like maybe 3 to 3.5, just so I know I stay inside of it. But if that was the case where we have our design width here, you would just hit 3.5 or 3, and then it would know everything, all the designs that would go on there would have to be 3.5. So if you had a mask, which I do, we done in one of the things here. So mask, black face mask. If I have my design, my baseball, I've already told it that this face mask itself here is close to 3 inches wide. So if I hit this, let's change this to red. If I select this face mask, you can see that this baseball goes over everything because it's only supposed to be, maybe 3.5, 4 inches wide. But if I were to resize this to correct width, so let's say 3.5 or just pretty close to 3.5, it's going to sit there perfectly in the middle of it. Yes. Okay. So the master 7x5. So in that area you might be able to go a little bit bigger then. But whatever your width would be to kind of place your design, you would put in here. So I was just kind of making I didn't know exactly how big they are, but usually some a mass like that would probably be anywhere from like 3 to 5 inches to work with. All right, so we had some other questions come in. How do we install packs like the Bella ones that we buy? Valerie, with those ones, I thought they came with an installer. Um, if not, I'd have to look at it. But if you shoot us an email too, we can. The call center probably has dealt with that. I haven't installed it in a while. I thought it was just like kind of like a quick installer with it, where it's almost like some of those mini packs. They just automatically go to the right folders. Um, and then I also so some people said they installed themselves. I also downloaded some free mockups from TRW and don't know how to import. Okay, so the designs like that, the ones that are free, those are pretty much just the product images, I'm pretty sure. So the Bella packs and the product, like the designs by itself. So let me pull up this here. So if we search mockups, not sure if you guys knew that there's some available, but there are some free mockups out there. So any of these ones that don't have a price underneath them should be free. So we have like the A4 shorts, we have a Badger arm sleeve, we have a Bella shirt mock-up, the J America Game Day, which is really popular, and the J America Tailgate hoodie. So with these are just going to come as blank products. So these are already going to be to the point where all you have to do is bring it in and set your design width. So when you download the image, it's pretty much just going to be like this here, and you're going to come in and add it to your software. So those ones won't actually be like, I don't think those ones come with an installer or anything. Those ones you have to still manually add, but it gives you the product image for them. All right, so yeah, just bring it right in. It's probably already like a some type of image format or CDR file, but just bring it right in, add the design with, or tell it the design with, hit the create design placement, and then you can add it to create your own folder or add it to any folder you want. So a couple questions about importing. Can we import EPS or just SVG, CDR, JPEG, or PNG? So when you come with like when you're creating, if you're referring to just like to create a mock-up image, it can be any type of file format. And then we also had CDR, the only format you can import. Not when it comes to the product images. Those can actually be any type of image. So like this first shirt that I grabbed from Google, when you copy the image here and you paste it in here, this is a like PNG or JPEG format. This is an image. So it doesn't have to be a EPS, SVG, or CDR. This is just a image right now of a t-shirt. So if you had a product image that you wanted to add to your mockups, it could be a PNG, JPEG, or it could be a CDR, SVG, or EPS file. It said I don't have anything to open. I don't have Illustrator. I was trying to download an EPS file. So with EPS, those should open right into if it's an EPS, it should open up into Corel Draw. We had another question too. Are those shadows adjustable after we save the mockups? So the shadows itself, like how we have it in here, when we make it a color changing t-shirt like this, the shadows are always going to kind of be there. The only way to kind of change them is to right click a color, and that will affect the shadow effects a little bit like that. Now again, it's one of those things that we don't want to do a red, maybe like a red and a green or red and orange t-shirt like this, because that's probably not the style they have. But if we do like a black and a dark gray here, that looks like a normal, gray t-shirt. So we can adjust it with a right click. And that the right click is what will, affect that color or that shadow. I'm trying to build my clip art from some of the live templates I have, like a football and a live decal. How do I save the football just to be able to use it again for something else? So that would be saving it as a CDR file. So you would just go to File, Save, or Save As, and then you can just save it as, a CDR. And by saving it as a CDR file, that will give you the preview of your design too. So when you use your live template editors, how you have a preview of your item, you'll see here, these are all CDR Corel Draw files, and that lets you preview the item beforehand. Now I would try to save them all to the same folder. So if you hit add artwork, it'll bring you to, oh, mine's not set, but it should have, if you have it set correctly, it'll go to your TRW clip art folder. So you want to save, if you're extracting clip art from like a live template or anything like that, you want to save it to your TRW clip art folder. That way it's easier to find. This is the path to get to it, but I always recommend, once you have it set, you can drag and drop this over to your quick access, and then that way when you go up top now to File, Save As, or Save, you'll see on the left hand side here TRW clip art CDR, and that will bring you right to that same path. So you don't have to like sit there and remember or go the long way from going to your C drive, users, public documents, Ryan World, TRW clip art, CDR. But yeah, once you save it into here, you can create new folders, or you can just add it to, any existing one. So we say the white t-shirt, isn't there a way the market creator just so we say the white t-shirt, is there a way while in the markup creator to just add the colors? No, so if you're looking, so like with our white t-shirt here, you don't like, if you, at this point you would just either want to save it as or just, to get the different colors for this Gildan like style or brand, I would go to, the Google or any of those sites and search like Gildan, maybe like 6,000 colors, and that's going to show you all the colors that are available. you can then from there try to match it with like the eyedropper here or the color dropper. But not all of our colors would work the same. So, and there's no point of resaving it if you're just going to use our colors because it's already, color changing. But if you wanted, the exact image, that's when you would save each one separately. I saw Matt just say white, red, blue, and black regarding the mask. So what he could have done to make it look better is actually search like so. So we have this Gildan G500 Adult Heavy. So I could search Gildan G500 Red blank. So now I have the exact color of that Gildan blank, or red. So at this point, if I wanted to bring this red one in, instead of trying to match it to my color changing one, I have the exact color scheme right here. So this is I'm not sure what he did, but he might have actually created a image like one by one by one. So he made one for white, one for red, and so on. So let's say we did want this red shirt like this. If I'm gonna add this using my mock-up creator, okay, so he might have just traced one, and yeah, so I guess I'd have to watch it. So he could have traced one, and if they're all the same size, he could have used that same trace and just put a new image underneath, or he might have saved each color separately. I'm not sure, but there could be a couple different ways he went about that. But let's say we want to add our red t-shirt here to our mock-up creator. All right, so let's walk through the steps just so we're kind of all on the same page. Do I want to hit the auto boundary or do I want to start with just a manual tracer on this design? Perfect. Auto every time. Okay? So you guys, I thought I might trick one of y'all or two, but you all said auto. Exactly. So create auto boundary. All right? So that creates the boundary around our design. And I'm just going to kind of go through it, zoom in a little bit in some of the corners just to kind of make sure it looks good. Everything, we're smarter than we look. Everything looks good on the edges here. You can see again, see how pixelated the outside edges are? That's why we set it to this 0.02. So that brings it, instead of putting our trace around the outside here, it brings it in a little to cut all that pixelation out. All right, so our next step, are we gonna hit cutout color change mockup, or are we gonna hit cutout image mockup? Cutout color change, the first, not, oops, it's not white, sorry. All right, so on this one, if I select this option here, what's my kind of rule that I have to have with my image? Exactly, it has to be white. So the minute that I don't have a white product that I'm starting out with, cut out image mockup, and a lot of you guys said that, that's gonna be the option we select. So any item that has, any type of color, even if it's the white, like even if it's 90% white, but the sleeves are a different color, we're still gonna hit cutout image mockup. All right, so now again, too, when we select this, if I just kind of come over here, or if I just click on my t-shirt like that, is that okay? Can I now hit cut out image mockup? What's wrong with what I just did? Exactly. You guys are killing it. So that box is behind it. You can see right now when I go to my wireframe that these boxes right here aren't around my entire image and cutout. So I need to select both of those. All right, so now I'll go back to enhance. We said cut out image mockup because again, it has to be a white garment or item to make it color changing. All right, so now cut out image mockup. And what this is doing is where we have that box around our design, it's cutting out just where we have the trace now. So when we hit this cut out image mockup, it's getting rid of that box. So it's kind of easier to see that in the wireframe version, but it's getting rid of our box and leaving us just with our image now, or just with our t-shirt now. All right, so next step, add products. Design with. If this is, let's say an adult t-shirt, what are we gonna what's a good number to put in our design with? 10, 10, exactly. 9.5, 8 to 10, perfect. 10.5 is still good. All right, so anything like, I would probably stop around 11. That'd probably be my max, unless I knew this is gonna be for more like maybe extra large to 2X or 3X, then we can purposely make it a little bit bigger. But yeah, I would say anywhere from like 10.5, 11 is our max, and 8 would be, our smaller. Yeah, if we were going up to 3XL, we could set this to, 12 inches wide and still fit it right where it should be. So that's fine. But it's just knowing, and I would put a note in that here. I would put like men's red Gildan, 3X or 2X plus, something like that. All right, so our design width, you guys said 10. All right, create design placement. So I don't want to just leave my box like this, right? We want to make sure when we do this, we can change the size of our box, and that does not change the fact that we put 10 in here. So just because our box started this big when we placed it, it's 3.5 by 3. Just because I make this box smaller to fit in here or on my t-shirt does not change the fact that this box still represents 10 inches wide. All right, so this is still a Gildan. So I don't need to create a new folder because I'm already in the Gildan folder. Next, I'm just going to say men's red basic t-shirt. All right. Again, select my entire design. So my t-shirt plus the red box. Save custom product. It's kind of just going to blink for a second, and then it's going to give us this box. That says it's been saved. All right. So to check this, now we can just go to back to our mockups tab, Gildan. You'll see the option or the drop down right here, men's red basic t-shirt front. When you select that, it's going to show you even a little preview item here. So because the last one was like white with a white background, it was a little hard to see, but this one right now you can see very nicely in the product image. So if the design placement box goes into the sleeves, do we adjust the size of the box? Yeah. So if you ever create this box, and for any reason, if it's hanging outside, you're just gonna still shape that box to the to the size where you want that design to show up on your T-shirt. It's still gonna represent that 10 inches. So even like how our box came in and it was like this big, you still you need to adjust it. If you don't, a 10-inch design every time you make it is going to look like this on a t-shirt. It's going to be a lot bigger than your t-shirt. So you pretty much have to adjust your box size so that when you do place it, it goes right where you want it to in this area. All right. So any questions on our mockup creator tab here, or adding products to your mockups? All right, perfect. All right, so like I said, I knew with that we probably wouldn't have time for the magic tab today, so we'll get into a little bit more of the edit tab today. And actually, we might just get through some about half of it, just because there are some tools on here too that really help us. But the edit tab is usually like the first thing that's going to pop up when you open your design wizard. So when you click it, maybe text effects, but I think usually it goes to the edit tab. If not, it's one of the tabs that we use a lot. Can you stay with us like Matt did till 11:30? Dang. What was he doing till 11:30 with you guys? Answering questions. All right. Tonight, I don't know if giving things away. I need some more giveaway stuff. Yeah, maybe I need to talk to him about that. All right, so tonight we'll go a little bit past, but what I'll try to do is maybe what we'll do is just so sometimes it can get a little bit crazy, but maybe what I can try to do for one of the webinars is more of like a Q&A, or have you guys submit some questions ahead of time so I can try to, at least focus on a few of them. Sometimes it gets a little bit, specifics, and I might not have like a certain design or that certain project you're working on, so it gets a little bit hard. But maybe we'll try to set something like that up to at one point too, where it's more not really anything planned, but just what maybe problem areas we're having the most, and kind of just run through some basic designs or things like that to kind of go over those tools and features. But yeah, I think that will help a lot. Oh, can you resize a rhinestone cut file? So are you talking about like a file that already has like a template box around it? Is let's see. So it might depend on what type of file that's created. So let's go to our place and fill. Let's just add some stones to this, make them black so we can see them. All right. So one of the mass rhinestone files. Let me see. I think I have some of those. let's see here. Those are rhinestone. Oh, those are the rhinestones ones. All right, give me 1 second. All right, so let's bring in, we'll do this mustache cut file. Okay, so in order to, so what you probably won't be able to do is resize this one here. All right, now all this file is right here. So this one's 5 inches wide. So you kind of have two choices. One, now these stones have a little bit of room in between them. So what we might be able to do is select your design like this and then just bring it in from the corner just a little bit. Remember, you don't want to go, well actually this way it wouldn't matter as much, but we want to still pull from the corner. So now, or you can come up top, and as long as this is locked, you can adjust it this way. So if I want to try to make it 4.5, I can hit enter, and that's going to resize my design. Now, the issue with that is now all these stones are 0.117 by 0.117, and they all need to be about 0.135 to be able to cut them. So now if I highlight this design, and instead of resize, I select this replace. Now I'm going to make these black just so we can see them a little bit better. I'm going to hit replace, and that makes all these stones back to the 0.135 by 0.135. So when I do that, you can see how all of them are touching. So that would be a little bit too big. Our design is a little bit too small now to be using our SS10 stones. So I can highlight my design. Yeah, so the stones are too close at this point. So the next, next I would try to go to 4.75. Resize it, hit replace all. Now that's a little bit better, but I still have a couple areas that are overlapping. So at this point, if, it's still a little bit too close, it'd probably be not worth the work to kind of go in and just move a few. You're going to have to move a lot of stones. So that's when maybe I can come back and do 4.9. Respace. And now that's starting to get a little bit better. Maybe just nudge a stone here or there. And once, I get it to a size that will work, all I have to do at this point is go back to my templates. You can use current page or new page. I usually just do current. Highlight your design and do a vinyl overcut. And that's the same template that you have here. Now you want to be careful. Some of these stones are a little bit close still. So you can kind of go through and just maybe nudge a few of them. But that's how you can kind of resize it. Now we went, it wasn't a huge resize. We went from 5.2 to 4.9 or 4.8, almost 4.9. So we didn't really lose, or, we didn't get too much underneath or too much of a change in overall size there. Now, the next way would be moving to your sixes. So that's when you can just select your design here, select your sixes, and now this is 3.729 inches wide instead. And then again, once you have that made, vinyl overcut, and now these are all in sixes. but it's 3.7, and you're just using all SS6s instead of 10s. So that's unfortunately like the way you have to resize stone. So that's where vector design really comes in handy, or it's so much nicer to work with because you're able to go from 3.5 to 12.5, and the design will still work. Now, one option you have too is always to use, like, with a design like this, even though it has like it's meant for a rhinestone design, you can still use this with like a holographic or a glitter vinyl, and you could resize it to 4.3, 4.5, and you can cut this design in a glitter or holographic vinyl. It still has a little bit a pop to it, and you can fit it to anything. So we can make it like that, make it gold glitter vinyl, and it's still gonna pop a little bit more than just like a flat vinyl would on our design. Often when I put rhinestone design on mockup, duplicate of the stone design lands on the main design page. Rather with that, what could be happening is let me know if this is kind of what is happening. So let's get rid of these here. So are you saying when you like have a design like this, let's say you're outside your workspace, if you create a mock-up on a t-shirt or any item, are you saying like how you get a duplicate here? But it's above. Okay, so it could be just something as simple as this too, where your design's above it, and then when you make your design, you get something like that. So depending on where the actual design might be located, when you create a mock-up, you want to make sure the design's inside your workspace area. So that's what this white box for right here. And then when you hit your mock-up, it should never like duplicate. Now it will be on your page one. So if you ever were to like move this outside of your workspace and go back to page one, you'll see how it kind of shows both of them on here. So I'm not sure if that's what's happening, but usually when you see like a duplicate image or something like that, it's because it's like hanging somehow. It could be hanging just outside a little bit like that, and it still tends to like give you errors and stuff like that. Why do you select the vinyl overcut rather than the stone overcut? So that's all going to be kind of based on the cutter you're using. Vinyl overcut, if you're working with like a Graphtec or even like a Roland, usually the vinyl overcut setting works with your rhinestone templates or your vinyl templates. If you're using more like a GCC, a Silhouette, or a Cricut, I would recommend using the actual like Stone 2+ cut to create your files, and then use like the vinyl overcut or vinyl double cut for your thicker vinyl materials. But with the Graphtec and the Roland, the vinyl overcut setting usually works really well, not only on vinyl or glitter vinyl or thicker vinyl, but also on the rhinestones too. How do you resize your workspace if it's too big? So if your workspace is too big for your design, like how my design fits inside this workspace, that's fine. If your design is bigger than your workspace, you just click this button up top, the white page, and it will resize your page to fit inside of it. Otherwise, if you want to adjust your page size, if you don't have anything selected on or inside your page, so anywhere in Corel Draw if you don't have anything selected. This 15.87 by 8.5 inches tall, or 8.4 inches tall, that's your design area here. So if you don't have anything selected, you can come up top here and hit 20 by 20, and you'll see how it increases your design area. Now if you have your mustache design selected, this is this dimension. These are your dimensions of your design. When you unselect everything, you'll notice how it goes back to 20 by 20. Cut my first design last night. Forced was a little too light. Had to go from 90 to 105, and that's fine. So you might, when you see our cut settings too on our site and stuff like that, those are recommended. That doesn't mean you can't exceed those or anything like that. One thing with cutters too, when you're getting familiar with them, the depth of your blade outside, like the cutter itself, like where you, or the blade holder, that really can affect how your design actually cuts. And that's one of the biggest mistakes we see too, is that a lot of times we stick that blade really far out because, and trust me, I did the same thing when I first started. I was thinking, okay, the further the blade is, the better the cut would be, the deeper it would go, the easier it cut, where it's almost the opposite of that, where we barely have that blade sticking out. Now, with different materials, sometimes we have to cut it a little bit different. So when I'm cutting flock compared to EZ Weed, I'm definitely going to take that blade a little bit further out when I'm cutting flock than I would an EZ Weed or a decal material. So that's okay to do, and that might change your pressure settings a little bit too. So how you said you had to go up to 105. Well, you might be able to expose the blade a little bit more, and maybe that 95, 100 pressure would have worked fine. So it's there's always just a little wiggle room, but pretty much when you're cutting and stuff like that, you're looking for nice precision cut lines and that it's cutting all the way through your material. If you're getting those, if your pressures 10 higher than we recommend, that's fine. As long as you're getting good cuts and you're not cutting through your material, anything like that, you're not getting wobbly cut lines or anything, then you're good to go. With technical help, we had to cut 5 times on flock to get the answer. Yeah, I mean sometimes it, and that's one thing too. So anytime if I'm doing my first test cut or my first cut with the design, I never want to start with a design like this. So this, let's say our design here, let's make it all, oh, did I weld this one? All right, so let's say this is flock, and this mustache is, even if it's 6 inches wide, I know it's actually a little bit smaller, but let's say our design is 6 inches wide okay, so it's 4.8, 4.9. All right, so if this is my first rhinestone cut, I don't want to send this cut over to my cutter before I have my pressure dialed in. I don't want to cut a design this big to dial in my pressure. So if it's my first design, I mean, actually when it comes to designing this, our designs, this is a smaller design that we'd actually have to cut. But what we want to do is always just draw like a circle like this. And you can see it's a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. Place and fill, path fill, clear my paths. And then I'm going to go to my templates, vinyl overcut. And this right here is my test cut. So this would not be the first cut I would send through. This would be my first cut I send through. All right, and there's also on some of the cutters, or most of the cutters these days, have a do a custom a test cut. You say, yeah. So this is how I dial in my pressure anytime, and you know I don't cut rhinestones too often, so every time I cut rhinestones, I usually send the design like this through because I haven't, I don't do it every day. I might have cut, a bunch of vinyl in between that. So now I just want to make sure my settings are still okay. So this, and actually the square that we put around it, what I'll usually do too is make my square even smaller. So I'm only wasting an inch, less than an inch. And also with the test cuts, what we have sometimes too is those cutters have a feature on them that say test cut. So you hold that test cut button, or you press that test cut button, and it cuts like a triangle with a circle around it, or it cuts like a little plus sign with a circle around it. Have you guys ever done that before? All right, so the and trust me, it's fine. It makes sense when you think about it. All right, it says test cut. I have it set to, the pressure. I have it set to this and that. So it should be a test cut. When you go to do it, if you press that, it's not cutting especially if you're using flock, it's not cutting a rhinestone circle. It's cutting now a triangle and a circle around it, or some, whatever the test cut might be. But it's also not using our settings that we've added to our different templates in here. So when you create this vinyl overcut, if you go to the wireframe and look at these cut lines, they actually go around and then pass each other more than once. So this line here, it actually overlaps a little with this line. So, it might start at this point here, goes all the way around, and then it ends here. So this whole section, I'm going to do a circle and a circle. This whole section here is actually overlapping each other. All right, so if I send it through, Matt said for rhinestones you need to do 2 passes. So yeah, it depends on your cutter. If the Stone 2 Plus cut feature works with you for your rolling and you set it up that way today, keep using the Stone 2 Plus cut. I have the Graphtec, and I know the vinyl overcut setting works really well with that. So it's all, it's all based on it. And again, that setting though, let's say you are using the 2 Plus cut file. If you're using that setting, let me go ahead and make a template using this here. This setting has instead of going around once, it goes around twice with your path. So it knows you don't see it here, but it's actually telling, and I'm trying to move the node so we can see it, but it actually has the same path on itself twice. So these settings that we have in here, if you do a test cut just based off the pressure and the speed of your cutter, it's not going to do the same cut as this would. So when when you're creating a design or you want to dial in your pressure and settings, you want to make a template like this using the same template you would normally for your rhinestone. So with your rhinestone design, if you're used to using 2 Plus cut with your little circle here, you'd want to use the Stone 2 Plus cut option. If you're using, again, you can bring this down, and this actually has 2 boxes around it. But again, you can just bring that down, size them both together, whatever's easier. But that's going to, just make that a little bit smaller. But we want to match our test cut to the actual cut setting, or the cut that we be sending our main rhinestone design through. So that's something we see a lot too, is when they're like, yeah, I did a test cut, I hit the test cut button, my pressure was at 50, and 90 and my speed was at 30, but it's not cutting all the way through. Well, once we kind of set up something like this, then it's easier to see what our pressure actually needs to be at. Once, we might have to cut, this 2, 3, 4 times to actually get the perfect pressure. Once we do, that's when we load up the, we set our file and then we send our actual rhinestone template over. Right? But this, if I miscut this 2 or 3 or 4 times, it's still a fraction of, if we messed up this design here on our first cut, now we're out, half a foot of magic flock. This we're out less than an inch. How do you know you have a good cut? So with rhinestones, if that's what you're asking about, with the rhinestones, pretty much what you're looking for is when you peel the flock away that you just cut, those circles are left behind it. So you're taking like the box away, this yellow box, and it's more or less going to look like this. So you're going to take your box away where it's going to have all the holes, and all those circles you just cut are going to be left behind. So it's almost more this here. Subtract these out. So you're going to lift that up, but there's also going to be all those little blue dots still left behind. All right. Next thing that you can start to look at is the white material behind it. If you see cut lines or indentions into it, usually if it doesn't go through that material, but you can see the cut lines on it, that's another kind of thing we'll look for to know that we have a good pressure. So it's almost cutting into the white material, just the slightest, but it's not going through it, that much at all. It's almost just leaving a small little cut line on top of it. And that's kind of something you can look for with decal material and other vinyl materials too. For pressure wise, you're not going through the backing, but you're almost leaving just the slightest like cut mark on it. And usually that indicates a good pressure for like more of like vinyls. But the rhinestones, you should have just like your blue flock that looks like this, and then all the little circles are left behind it when you go and weed it out. Now, occasionally you might do it and there might be like 1 or 2 stones that are left in it that just didn't get left behind. So you might see, your design look like that, where 70% of the stones come out, but then there's still a few left inside here. If that's the case, this will probably mean, okay, next cut I do, I'm going to up the pressure just a little bit more. But also, if I just lay this down and press it on like a hard surface and peel it back up, they're probably cut out. They just didn't come out all the way, and they're just kind of left behind. Use a lint roller. I was told to get the spots from the back. Yeah, and I haven't seen the lint roller method, but that's a good idea. Can you explain the registration marks since we're talking about cutters? Yeah, so the registration marks, that's mostly just going to be used for decals. So like vinyl decals, stuff like that. Not rhinestone decals, but like the FDC vinyl and stuff like that. That's when you'll use registration marks. And so let's say you have, let's do a quick design. We have our soccer design here, and just going to add a contour to the outside of it. So our design here, this is our finished design. So they're going to get a 2-color design just like this. All right. So the registration marks, and to get the registration marks, if you highlight over these cut templates, you'll see down here, it gives you little shortcuts, but it'll say right-click mirrors, shift-clicks, add registration marks. All right. So you're not going to use registration marks for heat transfer vinyl. You're only going to use registration marks really for sign vinyl, decal, or like wall vinyl, stuff like that. So yeah, HTV, you're not going to do it because you'd see the registration marks left behind. All right. Now, when I select my design here, I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm going to left-click Vinyl Overcut. All right. So that's going to give me my design. It's going to separate by color, but then it's also going to leave me these registration marks. All right. So what these registration marks are going to do for us is help us line up our 2-color, our 3-color, or multicolor like sign vinyl or decal design. All right. So what you would do is when you lifted up your material, you would line up the left side boxes first. And once you did that, and it's hard to kind of do like this, but once you lined up those boxes, that means the rest of your design, when you lay it flat, would line up perfectly with your design. And let me check on YouTube. It's kind of hard to explain that like process exactly. It's a little bit easier to see the video. So let me pull that up real quick. You're probably gonna hear Matt start talking. Hey crew, it's Matt. Welcome to the Rhinestone World. And now Matt did create a couple videos. Let me bring this over. This one's without registration marks. So you don't have to always do that. Because one thing to think about with the registration marks, so I'll show you this one, layered 2-color decal with the silhouette. This has the registration marks added to it. But when you're cutting material like that, you're using about an inch, let's call it a little less than 1.5 inches of extra material on each color to add those registration marks that we're eventually going to cut off. All right, so the registration marks are nice, but at the same time, we can layer these designs pretty nicely without actually using the registration marks. Sometimes the registration marks can actually slow us down. It helps, but it can slow us down. So if we have 100 of these to make, I'm probably gonna eyeball it and just hope, maybe do a couple just to practice, but then I'm gonna probably get the hang of it once I get like 10 of just layering them without the registration marks. But they're there to help if you need them. But here, let me show you kind of this video. I'll just kind of go through it a little bit because this is the first part, just setting it up. All right, so this is like the weeding process. So still, when you weed your design, you're gonna leave your registration dots here in your design. All right, so you have your 2 designs. They both have their registration marks. So when those registration marks line up, the rest of the design will line up perfectly. So you just kind of take one of them, and then we'll go ahead and trim it. All right. Now this is where it gets a little different. You're only pulling up a section of your design here. So, and then you're cutting off the backer piece. So this is a nice way to help line up your registration marks. All right, so now you're going to take those boxes, and everything else is protected still. So even if you messed up at this point, you could still kind of save your design. But once you line up those two boxes like that, just peel off your back layer of your first color, and it's just going to lay flat. And the rest of the design just kind of fits perfectly. All right, so the registration designs or marks definitely help. And then when you're done, you just trim off those marks that you made so your customer doesn't see them and doesn't use them. And then you have your finished design just like that. And then, of course, you can trim around it if you want. I'm a visual learner, so like a video like that helps me see the whole process. But that's how the registration marks can really help. Now, I would definitely too, though, check out this other video above it. The layer, if you just, and all I did to get here was I searched registration marks. So this one here goes through the process of layering. This one's actually 4 colors, but it's using like parchment paper to help like see through your design to help you layer it. So this is definitely a good video to watch. I think this is actually, if you scroll down a little bit, we have one from 4 months ago. So this one's going to be a little bit newer. Same kind of process, but this one's a little bit newer, so probably even just watch this one. All right, so we're going to go to 9 o'clock. We got a couple more. Let's get a couple more questions in, and then we'll save the magic tab for part 5. We can knock out the magic and edit tab for part 5. We'll answer a couple more questions tonight. No more questions? Crickets. Oh, all right. We can end it. We can save some questions for next class. No, we just had some people type it. All right, I can see and read the magic buttons just fine. Matt has the magic tab smaller than you, and I cannot read what they say. Okay, I can. So pretty much, okay. So what you're saying is, Matt probably has his kind of like set to like 85%, so it's hard to read some of his button layouts. Okay. Yeah, I'll mention that to him. I don't know if for some reason with his, oh, you can't read him on YouTube Live. Gotcha. Okay, so I'll talk to him about it. I don't know if it's because of he's trying to maximize what you can see everywhere else on his screen or something like that, but I'll definitely mention it to him that it's hard to, that's definitely, a little bit harder to see it in the YouTube Live. If I'm just starting out, should I use the registration marks? Yeah, the registration marks will definitely help you, especially starting out. Now, once you kind of do, if you have a little extra material, maybe try to do one without registration marks just to kind of get the feel for it. Because, and it also depends on your design, right? So this soccer design, this word sock, like this part, the black, is almost like I can kind of hover it over and probably line this up pretty well without registration marks. Now the design that we just saw in the video where Lisa did like this little home, that one might be a little bit harder to get perfect to, like in those little cut areas, because if I'm off a little bit, you'll see it more. Here, if I'm off just a tad, like maybe a little bit more to the left, you might notice it a little bit, but from far away, or if it's like on a window, you won't really see stuff like that because I have like the border around everything. But if it's just like a little sliver or something that I'm like filling in, that's where the registration marks can definitely like help. A little off topic, but what lesson had information on setting up pricing information? So we talked about that a little bit in the last class, but if you search pricing calculator on our YouTube channel, let me see if I can find you a good video on that. So here, overview of pricing calculator and magic pattern. So that one will probably have some information on setting that up. Advanced pricing costs, pricing tutorial 1.0. So let me see this one. Let me see if he gets into actual changing your prices on this one. Yeah, so this is just running through it. Oh, you know what? No, this should still be in here. Oh, this one here. Yeah. Pricing calculator and mockup creator. So this one here, we'll go through the prices too. So I would search like the newest too. That's going to help, but this one's going to be a good one. And this one here would still go over it too. No, both of those were, this one's a year and that one's 10 months. So those are, you know, relatively new, or nothing should change there. But yeah, anything like that, you can always come in here and just kind of search in the, you know, this little area here, and that will help kind of narrow it down for you. So once we imported a mockup, can we close it? Yeah, without saving. So as long as you, like here, like on my Gildan page, you can still see it says Untitled 2, but I've already added it, like saved it using the mockup creator tab. So once I hit save custom product here, and I can come here to Gildan and men's, you know, red basic, that's saved. So at this point, I could just close this out, hit no, I don't need it anymore, and you know, I'm good to go. Sweet. All right, perfect. All right, guys. Well, that will pretty much wrap up tonight's webinar. Like I said, so are you guys signed up? Are most of us signed up with our YouTube membership? Not yet. Okay. So this week, it doesn't matter if it's the major league, or the all stars. I'm doing a premium webinar Thursday night. So usually the premium webinars can be anywhere from like 10 to 15 bucks. So you know that's already almost paying for itself this month, depending on the membership you have. But we're gonna do a free, or not a free one. It's gonna be exclusive for the YouTube members on Thursday night. So I'm thinking part 5 we'll do Friday during the day sometime, kind of like last week, either 12 or 1, probably somewhere in that area. So part 5 we'll wrap up with the magic tab, and then probably touch on the edit tab just a little bit. There's some main tools I definitely want to cover on there. Some are basic and generic, but we're definitely going to go through the magic tab and the edit. But Thursday night at 7, if you guys, and you can still sign up for the YouTube membership, now, and still get access to all of it this week. But each, if you haven't, I saw a few of us haven't yet. If you're not familiar with it, pretty much every week, you're gonna get, depending on the membership you have, the All Stars usually get about 2 to 3 designs in a font, and some type of coupon code or an extra new free design. The Major League will get, a free design plus usually like a coupon code or an extra design. And then each month we do a free, or not a free, but it's included into the All Star membership where you get training with Matt, or like a webinar, YouTube live with Matt. That's just exclusive for the All Star members. So there's a lot of perks to it. Design deals and stuff like that. We haven't had like the biggest deals in the last month or two in the YouTube giveaway, and the reason why is just because of all the sales we've already been having, that there's really no point. We've been giving out like an extra design or something like that. Instead, this week, just to kind of mix it up, I thought a free premium member or webinar would be like a nice change of pace. So that's going to be this Thursday. Is it the same training for all the membership? Yes, it is. So Major League or All Star, you both get this premium webinar. Now, the training with Matt is exclusive for the All Stars. So every month there's one like premium webinar / like YouTube live training that's exclusive for the All Star. This one will be for the Major League and All Stars, but it doesn't count as Matt's live. He's still going to do that as well. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. I'll see probably most of you guys Thursday night, and then I'll get this up. And then I'll get this one up by tomorrow, and then I'll also list part 5 for Fridays and I'll set the time for that and everything too. Can you quickly go over how to tell the stone sizes you have in the design? Yeah, with that, the easiest way is just highlighting it, left-clicking your money sign, and it'll tell you 34 SS10, just like that. So if you had like multiple sizes in your design, so let's say those ones were 6s. Obviously, that's not what our design is going to look like, but it would say, 4 SS6s, 30 SS10. So that's probably the easiest way to tell what size designs you have or you're working with. All right, guys. Well, you have a great night, and like I said, I'll see you guys Thursday, and we'll finish up part 5 on Friday. I had SS10, but the money says SS6. Now, when you click on the individual stone, what does it say up top here? Yeah, what is for SS6, like when you click on an individual stone, what are the dimensions it says up top? Okay. All right, Karen, let me write that down. That hopefully it should probably be an easy fix. I think we'll just have to go in and adjust your sizes. But yeah, that should be a quick fix. I'm just writing it down real quick. But we'll get with you tomorrow morning, and we'll just team viewer in, and we'll fix that for you. But I think what happened, did you change? If you change this from to 0.135 from 1.3, there might just be one little thing we have to edit in here, and that should fix it. So it should be, I'm thinking it should be quick. All right, no problem. But yeah, But yeah, we'll give you a call. What's a good time for you? Okay, sounds good. All right, thank you guys, and we'll see you Thursday night.